What is divorced dad rock? It's a term that I and many others have been throwing around for a while now, and it may sound obvious, but I think it needs a proper definition. Far be it from me to deprive an appropriate fake subgenre for a growing audience of angry, bitter dads who would rather complain about alimony and child support than actually spend time with their kids. So what better way to define what divorced dad rock could be than bad AI?
Divorced dad rock is an internet slang term that refers to a specific genre of rock music typically associated with bands that gained popularity in the late 1990s to early 2010s. This genre is characterized by its appeal to divorced fathers, often featuring themes of angst, nostalgia, and emotional struggles. The term is derivative of dad rock, which generally describes rock music that resonates with middle-aged men and has a broad nostalgic appeal. Divorced dad rock often includes bands that are perceived as lacking artistic depth, sometimes referred to as butt rock due to their mainstream radio-friendly sound. This definition is more accepted by the educated world as it was read with a British accent. Notable bands in divorced dad rock. Nickelback, known for their catchy hooks and anthemic choruses. Nickelback epitomizes the sound of divorced dad rock with songs like How You Remind Me. Hinder, this band gained fame with hit singles such as Lips of an Angel, which encapsulates the emotional themes associated with this genre.
Not a terrible definition. With that logical explanation and my own understanding of what bands can be described as divorced dad rock, I'm going to list off 10 divorced dad rock bands. Here's the catch, not all of these bands are bad. I mean that. There are some bands I'm going to list under divorced dad rock that are solid. Just because it's a funny description does not mean it has to be completely negative. I'm sure that'll fly over many people's heads in the comments, but that's okay. This is not a top 10, no ranking. Do not take this video too seriously. It's a dumb video just for fun, which will probably make the actual divorced dads angrier. They'll be shouting stop having fun at the screen. You know how these videos work. Let's get to it. We start off with one of AI suggestions, and let's be honest, this is spot on. Nickelback is on the Mount Rushmore of divorced dad rock. I mean, Nickelback is what divorced dads listen to on the drive to South Dakota to see actual Mount Rushmore. Screaming along with Chad is cathartic for grown men who are late on rent because they were busy spending money on Miller Lite and ammo they'll never use. Listen to Nickelback anytime after 2002, and the angst, while having a cocky attitude, really does fit the description. The live concerts, I understand, are a solid mix of people. It's not dominated by separated distant father figures, but those divorced dads definitely have copies of Dark Horse and All the Right Reasons in their CD binder. A divorced dad standing around telling strangers why Nickelback is actually good. That absolutely checks out. Also, AI epitomizing How You Remind Me as the divorced dad rock banner anthem is gold. Here's a good example of divorced dad rock, meaning I don't think the band is bad, but it still fits the description. Shinedown has had a lot of material that is not even relationship-based, but still fits all the notes of what angst-filled divorcees would go to. Think about The Sound of Madness and how energetic the songs can get while also being gritty and angry and about moving on, shouting boom lay and talking about being on the front line, but in reality, you're just sitting on the couch eating Cheetos. Yeah, Shinedown counts. Then you have the much darker 45, which divorced dads definitely fit the bill of, all the way up to a song like Monster singing about how dark and dangerous their mind is. Brent Smith's booming voice also is a great one to cover up the upset dads as they scream along on their commute to work. Being described as divorced dad rock is not always a negative. See, Shinedown's a quality example of a band that connects these middle-aged men to something powerful, but also emotional. And I hope 45 is not the go-to song either. Shinedown has nicer songs. With the recent news of Adam returning to 3 Days Grace, while current singer Matt Wall sticks around, this Canadian divorced dad rock band is going to be twice as dad-filled and give twice the energetic divorce rambling effect at every concert. Whether you're a fan of the older or newer 3 Days Grace, I assure you both styles qualify. Canadian divorced dad rock also where the divorces are much nicer and more civil. None of that divorce court fighting, just a couple going their separate ways to one ex playing in the background. Even if I enjoy the Adam era of 3 Days Grace, there is still some bitter lyrics and brooding choruses in the later years, especially with that weird cover of Gautier's Somebody That I Used to Know where Walsh sings the song to himself. They even turned Gautier into divorced dad rock. Upcoming tours and festival performances are totally gonna have the dads rushing the barricade and pushing people out of the way to sing I Hate Everything About You together while thinking about their ex-wives. It'll be a beautiful, horrifying sight. Much less on the angry side, but still filled with angst and regret would be Seether, who has been holding down the divorced dad rock mantle for over 20 years now. There is a lot of hits from South Africa for divorcees who left to write about their misery. For whatever reason, Seether is the perfect sound of divorced dad rock when the rock is not loud and endlessly angry. I think this is the rock for divorced dads at a bar on Thursday nights, just sadly watching pro bowling on a wall-mounted TV and thinking about how he could pro bowl if he wanted. Seether has that relatable feel to the music because some of it is truly adaptable to anyone and about generic bitterness and consequential misery. So when good old Jack is ignoring his ex's call for child support, it fits that the song Broken or Breakdown would be playing in the background. It also fits that good old Jack would have an outdated cell phone with Seether's country song as the ringtone. But I can't stand to look at you now. See? Oh yeah, that's divorced dad rock statements right there. Alright, time to get into the garbage. If you think that guys who grew up with Bad Girlfriend thinking it was the coolest song ever would not amount to being a divorced dad someday, then it's time you got a dose of reality because Theory of a Deadman counts. Or Theory, as they're sometimes known by. When they are more serious, it's awful songs like Medicate. When they're trying to be cool, it's Bad Girlfriend, both of which are DDR staples. I'm referring to divorced dad rock now as the new DDR. I know Dance Dance Revolution still exists, but DDR works great here. Without even hearing a person's voice or seeing their face, if you saw a comment online saying, I want to go see a Theory of a Deadman concert, you instantly envision a guy who hates women, but also wants all women to know how hard it is to be a nice guy like him. That concert might as well have a real men only sign out front. It's the longitudinal study of music for a divorced dad who jammed out to Bad Girlfriend while peaking in high school and then moaned along to Medicate while telling people how cool he was in high school. Speaking of peaking in high school, Stained really did not age well after the nu metal days. I mean, not at all. The lyrics after the year 2000 are whiny cringe, and the music itself got repetitive and boring. So the music is nothing you really have to think about too hard. Perfect DDR style. Aaron Lewis might be the poster boy for divorced dad rock. I mean, he looks like the end result of when you prompt AI to generate an image of a divorced dad who drinks on the job and loves to tell strangers how many guns he has. This is what Stain represents musically also. There is definitely a demographic for this, but it's died down a lot after Aaron Lewis's rough solo tour and the return of Stain not exactly doing as well as the band had hoped. I mean, not at all. Concert attendance was hit and miss, and festival appearances looked like an NRA meeting. No nicer way to say this. Not only is Stain divorced dad rock, but Stain is also January 6th rock. I mean, it's hard to argue as January 6th supporters definitely fit the Stain demographic, and the singer of Stain has many opinions on politics supporting what January 6th rioters did. Birds of a feather. Speaking of January 6th rock, come on, you knew Five Finger Death Punch was gonna be on the list. The band even made an anti-mask music video during pandemic when people charging towards government officials. That's the divorced dad way of protest, and the way of embarrassing your own children. The band did not start out this way either, which is what's surprising, but as bad attitudes and wasted potential added up, and then the Let's Go Brandon chant started from Ivan Moody at concerts, the divorced dads all collectively adopted Five Finger as the angry style of music they loved most. Festivals get pretty gross when the band is there because the fan base is pretty toxic, but when you see these guys at a concert, with them headlining or not, it's a sea of middle-aged men desperate to fight someone for no reason than to feel tough. Just a sad, lazy pit of men who tried to make it past one song, get too tired, and then just high-five each other when Ivan Moody panders. DDR is filled with pandering, as is Five Finger Death Punch, especially to the military and police. That's why Five Finger Death Punch isn't just divorced dad rock, it's also ex-cop rock. The music for cops who got fired after abusing the law too many times, or being too stupid to be a cop. Yep, Jekyll and Hyde is the theme to that. It's perfect. Let's calm everything down a bit for those riled up Bills and Bobs who just want to scream at their ex or the government or both. Let's go to something completely bland and emotionless, like Three Doors Down. It's perfect for dads who have given up. Every few years, Three Doors Down appears back for a tour, and the divorced dads grab their ill-fitting t-shirt from 2001 and go relive the glory days of Kryptonite and Away from the Sun while drinking so much Pabst Blue Ribbon that even Wisconsin would be ashamed. However, some of the band members also embodied the DDR lifestyle, including the guitarist who wore an anti-pronouns t-shirt, but when holding his guitar, it didn't say, "My pronouns are Patriot." It said, "My pronouns are Pat." Anyone named Pat is owed an apology. And it sounds mean because the band might have one of the most inoffensive catalogs in rock ever, but for the crowd that is so drunk that they cannot count to one, then mild music with a 4-chord structure and a singer who sounds like he's bored is the perfect sound to calm you down. This is a slam dunk entry, and in a way, this is a good example because Creed is mostly harmless. Mostly. And the music is more of a sing-along for all the dads. Whether it's caught up in feels or shouting along happily, Creed shows off DDR a bit better, especially with the comeback tour this past year. Creed reunited divorced dads around North America with arms wide open open, all singing arm in arm about their own children, who they probably can't remember the names of. It was a beautiful scene for rock. I mean, Creed having this comeback of a lifetime thanks to a wildly successful dad rock tour and last year's Texas Rangers run really helped put Creed divorced dad rock into a better light. Rather, it makes DDR sound nicer and not as angry or bitter all the time. Even divorced dads need to lighten up at some point. It is an adorable image to see grown men in beer-stained wife beaters all singing along to Higher at an amphitheater. And then they look over and see their ex's family with their kids all having fun at the same concert. More beer stains and tears are coming after that night. We need to go back a bit for this one, and I will not hear any argument against why Guns N' Roses is not divorced dad rock. Axl Rose and company grandfathered a fake subgenre long before the days of post-grunge. I'm pretty sure Axl Rose was born a divorced dad somehow. And it's not just a divorced dad in his basement air guitaring to Welcome to the Jungle either. Guns N' Roses is DDR going all the way to Chinese Democracy, a band promising a new album for years, finally getting passive-aggressive and finishing, and the product is arguably the weakest they've done. That has divorced dad rock attitude all over it. It's only in the last few years that GNR has become the legacy festival spectacle that at least has the dads all emptying out 401ks for festival tickets. Crowds are always packed also, with those dads screaming to Axl while thinking about their ex who took their old GNR CDs in the divorce. Tough break. I'm not sure if GNR is synonymous with DDR, but it really needs to be. I mean, as time has gone on and glam rock and hair metal fell by the wayside, divorced dads are the only ones defending the genre as the best, so naturally DDR would want one of the biggest names from that era being Guns N' Roses. I mean, I would take GNR over Stained, come on. There are way more than 10, including good and bad bands that qualify. My question now is, which band do you think will be the first to embrace the divorced dad rock definition? I mean, there has to be one to take the beer-drinking helmet as a crown and wear it as king of the sad dads. Let me know in the comments some good other examples of divorced dad rock and who you think is the best divorced dad rock band. I also asked the community tab for examples with explanations. I got some good ones out there. Check the link in the pinned comment if you want a good chuckle. Finally, here's a dog. He was a good boy the entire time and did not bark once while I was recording. He's now chewing up his dinosaur. Ivan! You're a good boy, yeah.